For our next guest, after growing up in the Chicago suburbs, Robin spent a year in a Maritimes village in rural East Africa, where she adjusted to daily life of fetching water, collecting firewood, and communicating in Swahili. She has spent the majority of the last 20 years partnering with elders across East and West Africa, Central and South America, and to support human rights such as education, clean water, women's empowerment. And please take a warm welcome to Robin Wiszowaty.
Good morning, we believe. Karibuni kwetu. Niliisha hapa Kenya miaka 20 na imejana watu wazuri. Welcome to our home. I've spent the last 20 years living in Kenya with the Maasai people, and the country is full of beautiful people. But I wasn't born in Kenya. I actually grew up, as Dan said, in the suburbs of Chicago. And when I was growing up, my life was pretty typical, at least for the neighborhood I grew up in. I was an athlete, so in a sport every season of the year. I loved drama and theater, so was involved in musicals and student council, yet at the same time, I always knew that I wanted something more in my life. My high school hallways always felt a little bit too narrow for the worldview that I was trying to push my way through, and it got to a point where I would become angry. The frustration would well up into an anger that would come out at any authority in my life, until my parents thought I would be better fit in an anger management and tough love program than in our life. But as I grew up, and as I got the chance to go on to university at the University of Illinois, I decided that I wanted to start my life over. I wanted to leave everything and everyone that I had ever known, to go to a place as far away from my current reality as possible so I could decide for myself what are my morals, my ethics, my priorities, my values. And so through a series of connections, a professor at the University of Illinois had a colleague at the University of Minnesota who had a colleague at the University of Nairobi in East Africa who sat on a UN Council of Indigenous People and spoke to a local indigenous Kenyan tribe called the Maasai, where the elders decided in a circle which home it would be that I would move into. Word came back through this series of connections, and all of a sudden, I had a new Kenyan family ready to adopt me into their home. So I was welcomed into this family where we had a baba, or a father. He had 2 wives. This is his first wife because the culture is polygamous, meaning they believe in taking on more than one wife. There was three brothers, 2 sisters, 2 orphans that the family had adopted, 2 herds boys that took care of the 70 goats, cows, and sheep that also lived in that house, my grandma, who was the 4th wife to her husband, and I was the 15th person to come and live in that home that I shared with you. So at night, when you walk inside that house, our bed was a mattress of tightly woven sticks that we would put a cowhide on top of, and then a blanket on top of us. I would sleep every night with my sisters and my youngest brother, and every morning I would wake up to the sound of my Maasai mama's voice as she would say, "Naserian amka, saya kuenda maji," which in Swahili means, "Robin, get up. It's time to go fetch water." So we'd grab our jerry cans, walk over the kilometer to the spring where water would naturally come up from the ground, load that 20 liters up on our back to walk home, take our machetes, our knives that were big, out into the forest to cut down firewood that we would bring back home. And then there was this grass that would grow about waist height. And if you slash it at the base and bend it in half and hold it at the bend, you can use it as a broom to sweep out the dirt floor of our home. But essentially, chore after chore after chore, day in and day out, was the life that my Maasai family lived, the life that millions of rural Africans and others around the world live, and the life that I lived for the year that I was staying with the family. But before I ever went to Kenya, I thought I understood what life could look like, because probably like many of us, those headlines catch our eyes, and so we read those stories, we see those pictures, we watch the documentaries, we talk about it in class. So before I went to Kenya, I already knew that 50% of the world didn't have access to health care. I already knew that there was 2 billion people in the world that didn't have access to clean water and sanitation, but I didn't know that I didn't really know until I stood in it. And I would watch my young Maasai brothers climb to the top of those tall, flat-top acacia trees that the Lion King made really famous. And those trees grow super tall, 20, 30 feet up in the air. And my brothers would climb to the top and wave down as though I should be proud of them. But all I could do was stand back and look at them with my arms crossed, thinking, what are we gonna do if one of them falls and shatters their leg bone? We didn't have a hospital nearby. The closest thing we had was a clinic 4 hours away. There was no ambulance to call, and there was no road for it to travel down. So all of a sudden, the fact that half the world lives without access to healthcare started to look and feel a little differently to me. Or drought. I thought I understood what a drought meant. Because if we think through it, a drought means rains don't fall, so crops don't grow, so there's no food to buy in the market, so there's no food to carry back home, so it's a time that people don't eat as much. And we've all seen pictures of the ribs sticking out of a cow during a drought, and so you know, well, that means it's really bad. And so when you see that happening to people, you know it really is pretty bad. At least that's what I thought a drought would be. But it turned out it was actually so much more than that, because in our family, that spring that we were counting on would literally dry up during the days. And the only time that water would slowly trickle out would be in the middle of the night. And despite having a long day of chores from sunup to past sundown, around midnight or 1 a.m., my mama would come and put her hand on my shoulder as I slept on the bed of sticks, shaking me and saying, Naserian Amka, Saya Kuenda Maji. So through the darkness of night, we would navigate through the thorns of the bushes and the trees. I never knew the value of a full moon to be able to navigate the bushes in the middle of the night until there was nights when there wasn't a full moon for us to see. And growing up in the Chicago suburbs, I never learned how to identify wild animal noises in the distance until now. This was an important skill. To know that that sound is a hyena. To know if it's coming from the right or the left, if it's 3 kilometers away or 1 kilometer away, and therefore which path to negotiate down. But all of a sudden, drought had this new element to it. It had a bit of danger. Nonetheless, as we all know, you need water in order to survive. So Mom and I would go fetch the water, and then the next morning we'd have a debate as we started the fire to cook the breakfast of tea. We would debate between ourselves, this week, will we use our bucket of water to wash the family's clothes, or let everyone take a 3-cup bucket bath at some point throughout the course of this week, or do we not wash anything or anyone so we have enough water to boil our corn in so that we could continue to have something to eat? So drought was affecting our nutrition and our hygiene and our sanitation and our safety, and it wasn't just drought. I was watching young girls become the 4th wife to a 64-year-old man, or parents have to tell their children which of them could continue to high school and which of them had just completed their last day of school. But there was all of these things swirling, and truth be told, that year of living with the Maasai was one of the most confusing times of my life. Because on one hand, there were all of these urgent obstacles to survival. And on the other hand, there were some of the most beautiful values that were being redefined for me. Values such as generosity or community, or what it really looks like to take care of someone else. But after a year of living with the family, my plane ticket was expiring, and I had to go back home. And so what felt very quickly of rushing from the mud home that you saw, traveling through the airports until 24 hours later, I was back in the Chicago airport, in my hometown, the place that was supposed to be my familiar, but all of a sudden I felt like the foreigner that was there. Because people would say things to me. They would say, oh, Robin, you must be so grateful to be back home in the States. Because now, whenever you want to, you can just go down to your refrigerator and you can have a snack instead of the other conditions that we were living with. And it's the same refrigerator. I don't know if you guys have done this too, where you go home after school and you're looking for a snack and you open the fridge and you might stand there for a good 30 seconds looking through it. It's the same fridge that you looked at yesterday with pretty much the same stuff. And then after that, you might close the door, go over to your pantry, look at that for a long time before you call out, Mom, there's nothing to eat in here. We've all been there, we've all done that. But now my fridge and my pantry were starting to feel and look differently to me, the same way that the health statistics were. But as people would say, oh, you must be so grateful to be home because now you have all your clothes or all your shoes or clean water that you don't have to second guess if you're going to get sick or not by drinking it, or your own room, I would just stand there and say, yeah, I am grateful for all of that, but I would also hesitate. And my hesitation was never a lack of gratitude. It was this slow realization that what I was realizing is that for me, gratitude is no longer enough. In order for me to feel as though I was contributing to making this world a place that we can be proud of, in order for me to feel as though I was honoring my mama and my father of my Maasai family, or the millions of people who live that life that I will never meet, who balance those obstacles to survival in the face of such brilliant values, I knew that for me, I wanted to do something with my life to create a world that we're proud of. So I decided to become really deliberate about how to create this life. And we can all do this. We don't need to leave our hometown and go travel somewhere further away. Creating the world that we are proud to live in starts right here, right now, in our own families. I had to look at how I treated my dad, or my mom, my brother and my sister, how I responded to people when I was in stress or in chaos. And I realized that choosing the life that we want to live starts with demonstrating the values that we live every single day. I've spent the last 20 years building a career around community development and partnering with local leadership and building capacity with women and education and empowerment. But that's not where I started. And as we look around in our classrooms today, and we look around in our homes today, we look around in our families, we look around in our communities, it all starts with compassion. That's something that is asked of each of us every single day. Well, let's look for the opportunities where you see somebody feeling left out and include them. Let's look for the opportunities where you see a cause that you can give back to. Look for the opportunities when you feel moved, when you have a variety of speakers coming on the stage today here at We Believe. And when they say something that means something to you, hold on to that and explore that. Because we all have relationships in our life that let us practice the art of compassion every single day. And it's a lifelong practice. And so I want you to think right here, who is someone in our lives that deserves more kindness and understanding than we've been offering? Or think about, where is an idea that I can start to make a difference, to contribute to this world that we're more proud of? Where can I volunteer? Where can I give back? Who can I befriend? And how can I respond to an injustice when I see it next time? This is a theme that we'll be chatting about more and more today, but it is also my honor to talk to you about, to introduce the next speaker coming to us by video that is going to be sharing something incredible with us about how to apply to our lives. He is one of the most ardent advocates for nonviolent social justice today, following in the footprints of his father, Martin Luther King Jr., who changed the scope of civil rights movement in our country. I would like to introduce you through video to Martin Luther King III.
Hello. We believe, and thank you for being here today. I want to start by expressing my admiration for your hard work and resilience in facing the challenges of the past 3 years. As the world goes through a time of healing, it is essential for you to continue being the inspired young minds that will shape the future. Today, I am honored to be here with you to encourage a passion for service and civic responsibility. Through these difficult times, you have shown incredible resilience, and it is essential now that we nurture our sense of community by inspiring a new generation of service-minded young people. We urge you to realize the impact you can have on your communities. Look for issues or injustices in your schools, your communities, and your nation. Collaborate with your peers to develop ideas that help others and create real change, you truly have the power to plant seeds that can spark movements. My father, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., with the help of many, was able to transform the United States in a significant way. In the mid-1950s, he worked to desegregate buses in Montgomery, helped dismantle segregation in Birmingham, Alabama in 1963, and worked in Selma in 1965 to create a Voting Rights Act and the Fair Housing Act in 1968. On August 28, 1963, over 250,000 people gathered in Washington, D.C. to hear my father speak about a dream where everyone was guaranteed the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, in a world where everyone was free. Rich, poor, old, young, black, white people from far and wide gathered in a unified movement to spark action for necessary change. This movement was the spark that would come to define their generation. You see, my father was a great leader, but his mission outstretched his lifetime. And it takes a movement to create lasting change. An idea through a dream can be the start of a movement of change that transcends time. Nearly 60 years have passed since my father led the March on Washington, and it remains clear that there's still a need to advocate for freedom, unity, and equal rights, not only in the United States, but around the world. We must continue to advocate for service, equity, and hold the belief that every voice can change the world and awaken in others the need to keep the dream of a better world alive. I believe a nation is judged by how its most precious resources are treated. And I believe our most precious resource is you, our children. Right now, you have the opportunity to be the change makers we need. Across the nation and the world, citizens are still feeling the effects of inequity. We must continue to educate ourselves about the inequities around the world, from global human rights, such as access to clean water, to civil rights like equal protection for race, gender, sexual orientation, and religion. We need to embrace this message. Everybody can be great because anyone can serve. This message holds not only simple yet powerful truth, but evokes the feeling that our world continues to shift. There remains optimism and hope that we can achieve the dream of my father. Your teachers are here to guide and support you, but you too can be role models for your peers and younger generations. The most important tool we can use to help spark permanent and progressive change is kindness. By showing each other kindness, a better world is possible. Embrace your differences and learn how to disagree without being disagreeable. Remember, as my father said, faith is taking the first step, even when you cannot see the whole staircase. By leading the next generation of leaders, that first step becomes a little brighter. In my final moments with you, I want to assure you that you are not alone in your mission. The We Believe team is here to support you. They have all the tools and support you need to help you get started. So if you need their help, they will be there for you from start to finish. A huge thank you specifically to Daniel and Beverly, for without them, we wouldn't be here. They're making a huge difference in the Maritime provinces. Good luck in all your endeavors. Thank you, and may God continue to bless you always.